Hello, my beautiful people. Hope you're all doing very, very well. In this video, we're going to talk about the main things, circumstances, stages of life, or even external factors that make it harder or a little bit more complicated to live a minimalist lifestyle. And for those of you who are new here, I am Bren, and on this channel, you're gonna find videos about minimalism, organization, capsule wardrobe, cleaning, home ideas, and more. Okay, let's get started. Number one, insecurity. And I'm not talking about crime, we're talking about minimalism. So in this context, I mean personal insecurity. This is one of the biggest enemies of minimalism because it can lead us to buy things we don't need or to follow trends just for the sake of it. We see someone wearing or using something and suddenly we want that too. Or we hear something in an ad and we're off chasing that trend. And I really don't want to blame consumerism or advertising because, like I've said it many times, that is our own responsibility and our decisions are only ours. And I know that we are always bombarded with advertising and we see ads everywhere on the streets, on TV, in the apps, at the movies, and even in this video. I know. And consumerism is fueled by all that. But I think that if you are secure in yourself, in your style, your needs, your preferences, your priorities, and you know what truly adds value to your life, it becomes much harder to fall into consumerism or to make impulsive, emotional, or even aspirational purchases. And I think that a lot of ads are designated to make you feel that if you just have that one thing, you're going to be super happy or you're going to look great. And that directly targets our insecurities. So let's keep that in mind. Number two, hobbies. And first, I have to say that having hobbies is not a bad thing. No, it's super positive to find an activity that you enjoy, that relaxes you, and that is good for you physically or mentally. I think it's a great thing, but it does complicate minimalism a little bit. First, because it's not easy to find a hobby without trying things out first. And almost for any activity, could be a sport, maybe an art, cooking or sewing, or for almost any activity, you usually have to buy a bunch of stuff. If it's a sport, you're going to need specific clothing and shoes, and probably more than one pair. Also, equipment and maybe even medicine or something for injuries. And so the list keeps growing. A lot of my friends started hiking and they needed so much gear. And the further you go into the activity, the more stuff you're going to need. Some people even go camping for 2 or 3 days in the mountains. So imagine all the extra stuff and gear they're going to need. And if for some reason you can't keep up with that hobby anymore, well, now you're stuck with all of that stuff. And minimalism is about having fewer things and only what is necessary. So, for those of us who have different activities and hobbies and new things that we want to try, yeah, it could get complicated. And again, for me, having hobbies, it's super healthy and I highly recommend it. But I'm just saying that it can often require a lot of stuff instead of less. Number three, illness. And illness makes everything more complicated. And I don't mean the common cold that can last a couple of days and it's over. No, I'm talking about illnesses that unfortunately come to stay. Obviously, it depends on the specific condition and how severe it is, if it's chronic or not, if it affects mobility or not, and so on. But generally speaking, an illness could be very demanding because it requires space, time, effort, money, and purchases. and a lot of things that we didn't used to need or store, or the just in case items. Maybe a lot of medicine or devices or tools or medical equipment. And sometimes you must make changes in your diet, and that might mean more cooking at home, more utensils and containers, and simply more stuff. Sometimes you even need to adapt your house, and that usually means even more things because you still need the regular stuff for everyone else living there, plus the special items for the person with the condition. And health is a top priority. And obviously, it doesn't matter if you own less stuff or a whole bunch. But still, I think it's easier for someone who is completely healthy to apply minimalism than it is for someone with special requirements. Number 4, kids. And I'm saying this because so many people have told me that it's very hard to be a minimalist with kids. It's complicated, it gets messy, and I totally agree. Because just for the fact that there's another human being sharing your space means more stuff. And if that human is still growing and developing, well, that means they will go through a lot of stages, and each stage requires different things. And when they are babies, the mom will also gonna need different things like maternity clothes and shoes and creams. I don't know, maybe breast pumps or freezer bags. And it's a long list. And the baby, well, that is also a very long list, an incredibly long list. And someone without kids can simply do without all of that. And as kids grow up, sometimes the amount of stuff just gets out of hand. So, yes, I really believe that having kids can complicate having a minimalist lifestyle. Number 5, scarcity mentality. This is something that we inherit a lot of times or we learn when growing up. Sometimes we develop a scarcity mindset without even realizing it because it's just what we grow up seeing, the belief that everything needs to be kept just in case, or that nothing should be thrown away because maybe it can be sold later, or maybe we're going to need that again and we're not going to be able to buy it. And I think that it's very hard to flip that switch, even if you are no longer in a scarcity situation. And it changes how you view resources and opportunities. And also, it can lead to fear and a lot of insecurity. And overall, I think it makes you focus on the things that you don't have instead of focusing on everything that you do have. So, overall, a scarcity mindset tends to lead to accumulation, and it definitely makes minimalism harder. Number 6, a social home, a house or an apartment where you're constantly hosting people. Usually, there's someone in the family who always hosts Christmas or birthdays or all kinds of get togethers. Or there's that friend in the group who always volunteers their place for parties and get outs. And I think that having a social home makes minimalism a bit trickier because you simply need more things. You need more plates, cups, maybe trays for snacks, chairs, tables, I don't know, maybe a grill on the backyard, grilling tools. You get the idea. And don't get me wrong, family gatherings and friend hangouts are the best. I'm all for it. I love parties and get togethers, and I also love being a host. And if it's only occasionally, well, it makes sense to rent stuff. You can rent glassware, tables, chairs, and everything. But if it's frequent, then yeah, it probably makes more sense to own it all. And as a host, you want your guests to be comfy. You offer them the best and not the other way around. And that could mean having lots of extra things. Number 7, discomfort. And this point has its limits, but I think that minimalism, by its very nature, can sometimes be uncomfortable. For example, one of the main figures of minimalism, Fumio Sasaki, used to live, or maybe still does, in a very austere way. And I don't doubt that it was comfortable and functional for him. But I think for many people, it wouldn't be. I once lived in a kind of austere minimalism, not as extreme as Sasaki, but still without certain comforts. And eventually, it was just not working for us anymore. And I know that we could have kept living like that for years, but sometimes you just want a little bit more comfort, especially as you get older. You don't want to wash the same plate 10 times a day. It's more convenient to have 10 plates and just wash them all at once or run the dishwasher. That's the kind of thing I mean. And of course, there is a fine line between comfort and excess. And it's very easy to start accumulating under the excuse of convenience because once it turns into excess, it becomes the opposite. It becomes uncomfortable and things start getting in the way and taking up a lot of space and demanding more from us. And the bonus of the video is work. And this obviously depends on each person's job, but sometimes you just have to own a ton of tools and equipment, materials, and so on because of your work. And a lot of times there is no designated workspace. Maybe you work from home or travel to client locations, and that makes minimalism harder. Before I had my dental office, I had boxes full of my tools and supplies at home. And I remember counting everything that I owned for a video, and half of it was work related, stuff I simply had to have. In conclusion, there are certain things, some very positive, that make it harder to be a minimalist. And there are some negative things that do the same. But as always, it's all about choosing what we really need, what we truly want, and what makes life easier and more practical, but also happier and with more peace. And I also think that if someone lives without kids and pets or hobbies or sports, without work or social life, then yeah, being ultra minimalist might be easy. But living in an empty space and not having material things, it's not the goal of minimalism. I believe the real goal is to use our resources to do everything and to enjoy everything that truly brings value to our life. So, my beautiful people, that is all for today. Let me know in the comments below what other points I missed in this video. Tell me about your hobbies, your jobs, your kids, your insecurities, or when you found it hard to live a minimalist lifestyle. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.